This is Kissing Frogs, a podcast about relationships and how they change us. I'm your host, Dr. Molly Burritz, a clinical psychologist specializing in relationships and women's mental health. With my guests, we'll share personal, heartfelt stories about love and loss, from the first spark to the messy middle and whatever comes next. So let's get into today's episode. I hope you guys are ready for today's episode because there is some major truth-telling going on here today, because we have got Sabrina Zohar, who, if you know her, especially from her podcast, The Sabrina Zohar Show, which is one of the top-ranked dating and relationship podcasts in the world, then you know that she is no holds barred, no nonsense. She does not mince words, and she tells it like it is. And I love that about her. My little New York Yankee heart just loves how direct she is. She is not afraid to bring her whole self to the interview, and she's talking with us about her own personal relationship history and an ex that really nearly broke her, and how she got out of a really toxic relationship. She talks about how she got into it, what it was like while she was literally on the floor, totally unable to function, and how she had the strength to pick herself up and move on with her life. She just really knows how to use her own story to inspire listeners. And she has this way of making you feel that anything from your past, there's nothing so shameful that you cannot move past it and evolve and become the person that you want to be and have the relationship that you want to have. So I'm so glad that I get to share with you this week, Sabrina Zohar. Sabrina Zohar, so glad that you're here with me today.
I'm honored to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming out to Pasadena to do it.
Of course.
And bearing the traffic.
It's worth it.
Yeah. So you know that on Kissing Frogs, every week I'm talking with a different guest to examine a failed relationship, a relationship that was important in their life, that didn't work out the way they initially had hoped it would. But with time, they're able to reflect and kind of understand the role that it played in their life, how it broke them, and how it ultimately made them who they are, how it changed how they see the world and themselves, and how it might have influenced you now in a future relationship. And so you are so generous to come on here and tell your story, which I know in part is going to be reflected in your book that's coming out in October.
Yes. I talk about it. I had to change quite a bit about him to make it, because I think we see so much content about people villainizing the person as opposed to understanding what you learned from the experience.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's never been about him, right? He was just a conduit, a vehicle for me to find myself and figure out where I needed to go. But man, did that ruin me for quite a few years.
Yeah. So to get into it, paint a picture for the listener about who were you at the time that you met him?
Oh boy.
And do we want to give him a name to talk about him today?
Yeah, we can call him the health guy. We'll just call him that, because I'm tech guy now, so we'll call him the health guy.
Okay.
So before I met this guy, the health man, I was a shell of a human. I was the epitome of a hot mess. Like I remember, I'm an older sister and an older brother. And I was the one that everybody was like, man, she's a lost cause. This girl is never going to get her shit together. And it was hard for, I think, other people to see what I was doing. I was that classic anxious girl that had so much childhood trauma and all of the things that I had never worked through. I had never heard anybody talk about what a narcissist was or what did it mean to be emotionally unavailable. I didn't understand any of that. And so when I met my now ex, I genuinely in my heart believed that love had to be earned. It was conditional. It's good for everyone but me. Everybody else can have it, but not me. I'm not going to be able to get that. And so prior to that, my dating experiences were all the things that you would probably tell people not to do. I text people incessantly. I would put everything on. Did they text me this morning? And if they didn't, that means they don't like me. That means that I have to earn it. I have to do more. I have to perform. What can I do to get them to like me? I would sleep with anybody that gave me the time of day. I thought if I give them my body, well, of course, it's going to be so much fun. And if I'm pretty and thin, then they're going to like me. All without realizing none of those things mattered. Like what I looked like didn't actually matter in the long-term compatibility of my relationship. And so before I met him, I think I was just at my all-time low, wondering if I was ever going. I was in my late 20s. Okay. And when I met him, I remember seeing him walk across the street. And ironically, I'd wanted to cancel the date before. Something in my gut.
Wow.
I don't know why. I think it was because like the way that it had been set up, we had matched online and we weren't able to meet for like 2 weeks. And so there was a lot of the texting in between and I was fantasizing. And I remember he was like doing some stuff for work and I was watching him. And I remember just calling my mom being like, wow, he's like so good at this. It was almost a little concerning.
Yeah.
And the night before the date, I remember I tried to cancel and he was like, please don't. I bought the tickets already. Can we please go? Like, I really want to meet you. And we were going to do like an eventized first date.
Yeah. And can I ask really quick, in retrospect, do you feel that was your gut telling you the truth?
My gut was telling me there's something off with this person. Don't do it.
Wow.
And I think I had wanted him to be something he wasn't, but he checked the important boxes on the list of like, he's handsome, he's successful, he's tall, he's fit, he's good looking, he's funny, he's all the things.
All the outside things. Yeah.
But I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And so our first day, I'll never forget, I was walking across the street and he was walking towards me. And I remember calling my mom going, oh my God, I'm going to marry this guy. And just hung up. And I was like, I remember just when he hugged me, just that like warm feeling of the butterflies and the spark.
Immediate.
Oh my God. And we had the date and it was amazing. And we found so many connections of like, wait, you do that? I do that. Oh my God. And we ended up like doing the activity. And then we went back to, I think, my house, like he walked me home and we ended up sitting outside on my stoop for like 6 hours talking and just like had a nice kiss. And it was just like this electric connection. And we went pretty slow for like about 2 months where it was, we dated and we were going out, we were doing all the things, but I was never feeling that depth. I wasn't actually feeling we were growing anything. Okay. But the biggest red flag was that when I asked him about his exes, like, how'd your last relationship end? Like, what did you learn from that? And he said, all of my exes are crazy. And he went on to list all 6 of them, how they were all insane and they were all nut job. And poor guy, he didn't do anything. He didn't get it.
Wow.
And in the moment, I remember being like, oh, I'll be different. No. I was just added to the list, right? I was just crazy girl number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10.
So for you hearing this, all of his failed relationships that he didn't take accountability for, you were going to be the one that gave him the new and different hero experience.
Right? I was going to be the girl to save him. I was going to be the one that gave a different experience. Let me show you what love is.
Wow. And let me show you what love is.
We started to, as we started to date, it was about like 2 months in. I remember I told my sister all about it and everybody wanted to meet him and we were excited. And my dad said, why don't you invite him to like this family thing we're doing? Like we all want to meet him. It's been 2 months.
2 months in.
2 months in. We had gone on like 3 dates a week. It was like pretty consistent. We hadn't slept together. We were waiting. Like it was where then he had started meeting my friends. He was coming out to events with me. I was like, okay, like there's something here.
Yeah. And this is different because you were saying prior, your insecurity motivated you to sleep with people regularly and frequently. You didn't do that with this guy.
I was like, let's do something different.
Okay.
Let's play this differently.
Yeah.
And I remember even thinking like, don't text too much. Like I wanted to play the rules. Like don't text, don't show too much interest.
Yeah.
Play that game, right? Let him come to you. So I never text first. I never asked to hang out. Yeah. So I was like, okay, he obviously likes me. And then I had asked him if he wanted to come and meet my family. Not even like all of my family. It was just like my siblings, I think, that were doing something. It was like a dinner. And I remember then like 2 days went by and I didn't really hear from him. It was like very small texts here and there. And that gut reaction of like, there's something off.
Yeah.
And I reached out just to say, hey, I just wanted to check in. Is everything okay? And I get that it's not you, it's me. I'm not ready for a relationship. And I thought I wanted this. And I remember screaming in the shower, like, what is wrong with me? And calling my mom being like, I'm fucked up. There's something wrong with me. And that was the first time I went to therapy. That was the first time he and I were together. So then I find out 2 weeks later, he has a new girlfriend. And she's like the polar opposite of me. And so I was like, I'm confused. Like, what is it about her? So I started comparing myself. And I thought, like, he's my twin flame. He's the love of my life. Yeah. This is going to be it. And all summer I pined for him. I couldn't get him out of my mind. And then towards the end of the summer, I had seen him. Like, these are all the red flags that are glaring. Yeah. Red was my favorite color at the time.
Can I interrupt you just to clarify? So were you thinking at the time, I'll share what I'm thinking, is that he must have been dating that girl at the same time he was dating you.
Yeah. I deduced. And when I had spoken to him later, he said he was like, it was really innocent. He was like, I genuinely like had met her right after. And
maybe. But
according to him, remember, she forced him into it. Again, no accountability, never owning and saying, you're right. Yeah, I rushed into it. I shouldn't have done that. Like that was a silly mistake.
Yeah.
No, she forced him. She didn't give him the space. She was overbearing. She never let him be alone. It was always everybody else was doing things to him.
Yeah.
And so when it was Thanksgiving, I saw him post a photo of them together. 3 days later, I see him on Bumble.
So you were still following him?
I was looking.
Yeah.
I was looking because I wanted, that was my hypervigilance of just like looking to see maybe this would be it. And then realizing like, no, they're still together.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is I accepted it at that point. I was like, okay, I guess that's it. So one night I'm scrolling and I see his profile. So I sent it to him and I was like, hey, I think you're being catfished. Just want you to know, because he was like a pretty well-to-do person. So I was like, just want you to know, like maybe someone's using your stuff.
Okay.
And he wrote, that's actually me. Which way did you swipe? And then like seconds later we matched. And I was like, okay.
How much set me up in time? How much later was this after the breakup?
The first one was April. This was October, November.
Okay.
So you're almost 6 months, 7 months there in that point. And again, the red flag here being, well, 3 days prior, you were holding hands with this girl doing these really cheesy shoots. And now you're back on the apps as if nothing ever happened. And she was like nobody to you. That was the beginning of...
I've lost count of the red flags here.
Right? Yeah. I don't even... I've lost all of them.
Yeah.
But at the time, I genuinely believed he's picking me. And that was the beginning of a year and a half of the worst relationship I'd ever been in. Of what, like he would come back with me. We'd sleep together. And then the next day he'd say, I just want to be your friend. And then he would call me and say, no, I'm in love with you. And then 2 days later was, I can't do this. And I remember sitting on the side. I lived in Manhattan at the time, crying hysterically to my friend and going, what is wrong with me? Like, what did I do?
Always what's wrong with you?
Always. Why would it be anybody else in this scenario in my head? Because that's what I was taught as a kid, was my father was narcissistic, no accountability, no ownership. To this day, if you ask him, Dad, why'd you hit us? He says, you were bad kids. And I'm like,
to this day.
Okay. There is no conversation with him ever. There's no talking about this. He denies everything. Even with solid proof, he still says that didn't happen. You're making that up. And so I was used to that.
And you were a bad kid.
Yeah. At 1 year old.
Messaging.
Yeah.
You were bad.
Yeah. He said, your mother was a terrible wife. You were terrible kids. You always cried. And I was like, because we were kids. It's what you do. Yeah. I was like, and when you hit us, we're probably going to cry when you do that, or when you're dismissive, or when you leave with your mistress for 3 weeks. I think your kids are going to be sad. No.
Wow.
He's never been the bad guy.
So this lack of accountability was a familiar experience for you.
It was hook, line, sinker. It was comfort. I know how to keep myself safe here.
Yeah.
And I remember when I told my sister and her husband, because I'm very close with them, I was like, we're getting back together. And I remember my brother-in-law called me and he was like, I don't understand. Last week, you're just friends. And now all of a sudden he's the love of your life and wants to move in. He was like, I'm sorry, but this is bullshit. Wow. And so they clocked it from the beginning. And they were like, we don't approve of this. And if you want to do it, good luck, Godspeed. But like, we don't want to be part of this.
There's always those people in your life that tell you the truth. And in retrospect, you're grateful for them. But what did you think? How did you feel about them and what they told you at the time?
You don't understand me. You don't get it.
Yeah.
To be fair, my sister met her husband when they were 18 or 19. And like they knew each other from kids.
You really don't get it. You don't know what this shit is. Like, oh my God.
They've never been ghosted. They've never had a one night stand.
They've probably never met anyone online.
Precisely. Yeah. Like my sister for a long time, it was very, what are you doing wrong? Then as she started having friends that were divorced and single, she started to go, oh, it's dating.
Hard out there. Yeah.
But it was always my fault. So I internalized everything as it's your fault.
And so your sister kind of was on board with that messaging as well. Not surprising that the family dynamic spread throughout. Yeah.
And my older brother's not really he's not like the big brother. He's more of like a friend because we had a broken relationship in childhood. And so he saw it as like, all right, well, whatever you want. He was very disconnected.
Wasn't looking out for you.
My dad thought it was bullshit. And my mom was like, because he moved in with me very shortly after. And my mom was like, I know that if you don't do this, you're going to regret it. So she was like, you make the mistakes on your own. Like, I can't force you to do anything different.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the end. I was a shell of a human. He completely removed me from friends. Everything was, anytime I went to him of like, hey, this really bothered me that you did this. It was always somehow I was apologizing. I would be in tears crying on the floor and he would leave. He would call my mom, tell her that there's something wrong with me and I need to be institutionalized. And then his mom would call me and tell me how dare I yell at her son. And
wait, your moms were being brought into the relationship?
He would bring both of us, our moms. My mom kept saying, why don't you go in and talk to your girlfriend? Why don't you leave me out of this and go and talk to your partner? Yeah. His mom would call me and scream at me.
Wow.
Like, I'll never forget, I asked him, I made him popcorn at night. He asked me to make him some. And so the next day I went to work and I came home and he cleaned the house, but he left. He had asked me, I said, do you want me to throw the popcorn away? And he said, no, you could leave it. That was the night before. So the next morning the next day I come in from work and he's just kind of standing there like gleeful. And I said, well, the house looks great. Thank you. And I looked at her and I see the popcorn and I was like, well, you left the popcorn, huh? And that was it. He just started screaming, nothing's ever fucking good enough for you. You're such a piece of shit. I was going to take you out to dinner. Who do you think you are? Screaming. I remember just standing there and I was like, I don't know what happened. Storms out.
You're such a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
just for the listener, verbal abuse.
Correct.
When someone is calling you names, that is verbal abuse.
He almost hit me once. And that was when I told him to leave. And that was like, I was like, this is escalating to a point where like, I'm now scared. Yeah. But he would scream at me all the time. He'd yell at me. He'd call me names. He would just lose his marbles. And then he would start crying and be like, I do this because I love you and I care about you. And
so abusive.
And then his mom would call me, what is your fucking problem? So what? It's the popcorn. Are you never happy? It was that type where I was like, I don't understand what's going on. But I was such a shell of a human, and I didn't talk to anybody about it because I knew if I went to my family, they'd say,
I told you so, and you need to leave.
You go to your friends, and they're like, well, this sounds, and you're just like, we're a year and a half in, we're both running our businesses. I don't know what to do here. And so when it ended, it was me realizing like nothing was ever going to change. And he was using me, and this was not going anywhere. And so he ended up moving 6 blocks away from me because he couldn't just find a new place to live.
Okay, pause. There's so much there that I want to get back to. The moment where you knew you couldn't any longer, was it tied to him almost hitting you?
Yeah. It was, we had gone, I had the night before, so I have a clothing line called Software. And we had
what?
Software.
Software. Okay.
And so the night before it was our Bloomingdale's launch. And so it's one of the biggest moments for me in my entire life at that point. Yeah. Like Bloomingdale's is my childhood dream.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the launch party.
You were only in your late 20s and you had a clothing line? Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so I was stoked because my mom got sick and I started it and it was like a whole story of that. But she's fine now. But I wanted to do something I cared about. And so my sister and I had started it originally. And then halfway through, she was like, I don't really want to do this. So I then took it on. And my ex at the time was supposed to help me with a lot of the work. And so we were working together with a lot of it. And we had the big party. And I remember in that moment realizing like he's nowhere to be seen. And he was telling me that he had other things that were priorities and he had other clients that were more important than me. Wow. And then the next day I said something to him. I was like, could you like share the shirt with somebody? And he just looked and said, when are you going to understand? You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're an idiot and you don't know how to run a business. And you're lucky that I'm even here with you. And it hit me all of a sudden. I was like, get out of my house. And
that's like a divine moment for you to get the messaging.
It flooded me. And I remember him screaming at me and crying, running down the streets of the city, just being like, no, listen to me. And I text my sister, and my sister and her husband were like, we're on our way. We'll mediate. And I was like, no, I'm done. And my sister's husband was like, if you're done, we'll back you. And I said, I'm done. And he packed his shit and he left. And then like a week later, I was like, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, we're done. Please leave me alone. And I remember that was the time when my brother-in-law and I went on a walk, and he was like, you need to focus on you, your business, and your dog. And that needs to be the priority. And that was the moment that I started therapy and started like really figuring my shit out.
Wow.
I would never, it's so funny. Have you seen the movie Eternal Sunshine?
Yeah. I love that movie.
It's my favorite movie. It's where I named my dog Clem from. Oh. And we went to see it last night, and it was playing at the rooftop cinemas, and me and Ryan went. And he asked me after, he goes, with this specific relationship, would you ever erase it? And I was like, you couldn't pay me enough. I would never erase this. I would never undo it. I would never not go through it because I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't have that experience.
This is really compelling to me because you had this dysfunctional pattern for so long where you believed that the problem was you. And then things became so abusive and so egregious that I really do see it. It's almost like this divine moment where you realize and you set a boundary. I'm not doing this. Get out of my house. It took it to get that far before you could really step into your own voice.
Because he slammed his fist on the table and he wanted to hit me, and he like slammed it and it almost broke the table. And I was like, that could have been my skull. Like, this guy's 6'4", he's a big dude. He's a fitness like buff. Yeah. And I was like, he could hit me and I would be out. Like, I'm a small girl.
You were scared.
I was terrified. And what changed it truthfully was I had started therapy we had broken up, but we still lived together. And so right around that time I'd start therapy, but I was dabbling. Okay. And it was one moment where we were doing tapping and I loved it at the time, right? A modality I'd never done. And I had said, everything is my fault. And the therapist had repeated it. And she goes, yep, everything's your fault. And it just hit me in a moment. And I was like, but it couldn't have all been my fault. And it was the first time I'd ever said that. And then she smiled and she was like, no, it couldn't have all been your fault. Yeah. And so then maybe a week later, when I had seen his behavior like that, it all just, it hit me in that moment. I'm going to be next. Like, I'll be the next tragedy and his story of women that were crazy. And I was.
Yeah.
I found out years later, like he had shared that story many times over to many girlfriends that contacted me saying, I went through the same experience and I'm so sorry you went through that.
Wow. Wow.
2 of them now are married to amazing men after him.
And you too.
I have an amazing partner that would never, the one thing that this person did, I remember I had these like crazy pains. I was the type that my physical would take, like if I had trauma, it would come out in my physical.
Yeah.
And I was having these wild pains. And I remember like I lost my insurance. He had insurance. It was one of those things where I was like, I have like $200 to my name, but I can go to a doctor. And I was begging him. I was like, I think I need you to take me. And I was on the floor and I remember just crying because I couldn't get up with the pain. And he stepped right over me and he went, oh, get the fuck over it. You're not the only one who's ever been in pain. I have a meeting. And he went to the meeting which was one I connected him to. And then his mother called me while I was at the hospital. So my sister ended up coming over, taking me to the hospital. His mother calls me, who the fuck are you to tell my son he needs to cancel a meeting? This is gas. You're a drama queen. Why would he ever do? And she said, I said, well, you have a husband. Would you ever have to ask him? She said, I wouldn't have to ask him. He would take me. And I said, so then what makes it okay that your son didn't? And then he was upset with me that he had to come pick me up from the hospital. And I remember viscerally sitting in the car, looking out the window and just having tears, but I had to hide them because if he saw them, who am I to cry that he was inconvenienced? Yeah. And he just made it. I remember him coming into the hospital, you could hear him angry. You could hear the way he was walking down the hall of like, all right, you want to go or what? What are we doing here? And I was
a burden for him.
I was the worst thing that had ever happened to him. Mm-hmm. And he genuinely believed I should be lucky to be there with him. And I now look and I'm like, I don't have a partner that would wait for me to ask him to take me because if something was happening, he would have already gotten me in the car. Yeah. And that was because I didn't think I was deserving and worthy of anything else.
Yeah. And so you make this break, there's this breakthrough in your life where you decide, it's really a crossroads and you decide I'm going to go on the path to myself. Tell us a little bit about like what that path looked like for you. How did you sort all this out, Sabrina, to go from having such low self-worth to being in the position that you are today in a good relationship with a thriving career and so self-aware of these patterns? What did you do?
I ate shit, to be honest. Like I had to go to the depths that I was terrified to go to. What really changed it for me was an amazing therapist. I was seeing her twice a week. I had emergency sessions with her. Like she was my rock. Yeah. And then when we had an agreement where she was like, I think I've done all that I can here. And she was moving on. And then I found another amazing therapist. Like I had some incredible practitioners that have taught me. So like started with DBT, then went into IFS, right? ACT, like all these different modalities. And I take a little each time. Yeah. But honestly, my mom always says, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll make a change. Yeah. And I was tired of feeling like this. And I felt for the first time in my life that maybe I had some control over my life and that maybe I could do something. But it took me, I still dated like an idiot. I remember my family just being like, oh God, what is she going to learn? Like how many of these duds is she going to date? And what really changed it for me was, I think, losing everything. Mm-hmm. Like I lost my dog. I lost a good portion of my company because we had a whole mess up and I was supposed to be on Shark Tank and it didn't work out. Oh, wow. And so I was just getting so accustomed to loss that I realized like I need to find myself and I need to be there for me because no one's going to do this for me. Yeah. But me and this man broke up almost 9 years ago. Wow. So it's taken me 9 years of every day committing to being uncomfortable, every day committing to getting curious, ketamine treatments. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever done those.
No, I not personally, but a lot of my clients do.
Love them. Yeah. Love them. Yeah. They taught me how to be in a different place and be okay with that, right? Like to go, like now, for instance, I'll give you an example of like, I don't need ketamine to do this, but I've been feeling a lot of fear around my career of like, I feel like I'm going to lose it. Why do I feel like constantly it's going to be taken from me? And I was doing a meditation yesterday and it hit me. It said like, go back to a place where you feel sad. And I started realizing like it was at a time when I was a kid, there was a lot of cursing in our home. So people like saying fuck was something that came out the womb hearing. Yeah. And I remember my sister and I got into a fight and I said, oh, fuck off, Jamie. And I was like 8. And my mom called my dad in and my dad came in with the belt and I ran into my room and he said, open the door. I promise you, I'm not going to hurt you. Just open the door. And I was like, no, I packed my little bag. I was like 7 or 8. Like I was a child. And I opened, he said, I promise you, I'm not going to hurt you. Just open the door. I just want to talk to you. And the minute I opened the door, he punched me in the face. And I remember just bleeding, blood everywhere. And my mom screaming. My sister was in her room. She had no idea. She comes out. My brother comes out. He was like 14. And then my dad left for 2 weeks. And I remember sitting on the couch shaking, and in that moment going, you're the reason, because you cursed, because you said something, you opened your mouth, you're the reason you lost everything.
Huh.
Dad left. My mom is a shell of a human. My brother's crying, saying, how can I be the man of the house? I'm 14. And that was that moment where I was like, if you even just are yourself, God forbid you don't watch what you say, you're going to lose it all. And so, but I had to understand that to then go, oh, that's why I'm scared now as an adult to say something. That's why I get when people come at me and tell me not to curse or to speak slower. I'm like, this is who I am. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, find another place to go.
Yeah.
And it's taking me years to be able to say, that's okay. The parts of me that I hated are now the parts of me that I love. But if I don't do that, how am I going to get here?
Yeah. And everything, you went through this period of time where like everything was stripped of you. It sounds like your business, your dog, your relation, you lost everything. And it's almost like you had to lose everything to look in the mirror and just see you at your bare bones, just you, and build from the ground up.
It was 3 years of loss. It was just one after another, everything where I was like, right when I got, right when you get your shit together, something gets, you're like right when I had the best season for software, the Die House damages everything and I lost $100,000 of revenue.
Wow.
Things like that were like right when you're there, stripped.
Another
Shark Tank taken away.
Wow.
My dog dies. Like everything just, it's so close and then we lose it. And so then I started this career because I was like, I know there's other people going through this. And I know that there are other people that are tired of hearing the clickbait and the stuff that we hear on TikTok. I was just over it.
What really gets under your skin?
If he wanted to, he would. It just drives me insane because it doesn't if you wanted to get over it, you would, and you're not. So why are we putting all these platitudes? Yeah. And I think what drives me insane is when we are giving people a diagnosis in 140 characters or less. Like, I'm sure you hear this all the time. My avoidant. It's like, they're not your anything. This is a human being with lived experiences and trauma and nervous system responses. They're not a Tamagotchi. They're not a toy. This isn't a Furby that you take off your shelf. This is a human. And I think what drives me insane is that there's a lot of content out there of do this to get a result. Yeah. Okay, well, if you're result driven and outcome driven, you're going to be really disappointed because I can't control other people. Yeah. And so what drives me insane is like, if they like you enough, not, you'll be confused. Dating's really confusing. Okay. There's a lot of confusion, right? People could tell you they like you and you could misread cues or the texting. If a guy doesn't text you every day, that means they don't like you. There's a lot of people that don't resonate with that. Yeah. Right? We had you were married we've been with your partner for 20 years. Yeah. That was before texting. Yeah. What a crazy concept that you can build a relationship without spending 24 hours on your phone. And so I think it's a lot of that myopic, black and white. If it's not this, it's this. Yeah. But we don't really understand that there's a gray area in between that most people live in. Yeah. Yeah, because people want clickbait. And if you have a strong opinion about something, if you have a hot take, right, it's captivating, but it doesn't leave room for the gray. No. What's your least favorite thing that you hear? Because I'm sure you have it, even in your practice. Honestly, he's a narcissist. Oh, God. It's diagnosis. Not everybody is a narcissist, and not everyone that disagrees with you is gaslighting you. Yeah. Somebody the other day was like, all avoidants are narcissists. And I was like, you know what that tells me is you don't understand avoidance or narcissist. Yeah. Because that's what I'm hearing, is that you don't understand the terminology, but you're looking at some 22-year-old on TikTok that is making a video so that she gets paid because she gets seen. Yeah. And what it does then, it's interesting. We're in a time where there's so much information, but yet I feel like such a lack of knowledge. We know everything, right? Everybody, if I look on the internet, I could find anything I want. I could become a brain surgeon by just reading all of these things. But there's a lot of intellectualization, but not implementation. Like if I sat there and was like, here's how to do a deadlift. It's exactly every single bit, every move that you need to do. You go to the gym, you take your back out. Because just because you understand it doesn't mean you can actually implement it. And that stuff, it just drives me insane. Yeah. Yeah, I think, and people don't understand and there are narcissists out there. I think they comprise about, 1% of the population. So it's not a rare thing, right? But they're also only comprise about 1% of the population. So not everyone that you know or that did you wrong is a narcissist. And what people don't understand is that narcissism is a trait that every single one of us has. Yeah. And to some degrees, narcissism is very healthy. Right? Narcissism is a protective mechanism, right, that helps us from our feelings of insecurity and helps us go about into the world and still
try things, and but it's when it's overexpressed that it becomes problematic. And even for people who it's overexpressed, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're so far down the spectrum that they have a personality disorder.
Right.
You know, but the kind of behavior that you're describing is very much aligned. You know, what you're describing with your dad, what you're describing with healthy guy.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget. So in Florida, to get a divorce, you have to go to a therapy session. This was when my parents divorced.
Wow.
That was years ago. I don't know if it's still that.
Okay.
You had to.
Okay.
Cool. So my father wanted the divorce. She's like, well, we have to go to therapy. Like, we're not going to get it granted.
Yeah.
And by the end of the session, because like, when, you know, narcissists don't go to therapy, like they're not the first to be like, let me go and help myself.
Right.
At the end of it, the therapist.
Again, it's everyone else's problem. Everyone's the bad guy.
The therapist came up to my mom and said, with pleasure, I'll be signing this paper because you need to get out of this. And she was like, all I'm going to say is that's narcissism in the entirety of its form. And she was like, I'm giving you my blessing as I sign this.
Wow.
And my mom was like, okay. That was the first time she had ever heard that word. And she was like,
such a gift when a therapist tells you the truth.
if you're ready to see it.
Yeah. If you're ready to see it. Yeah. And people don't understand, if a therapist is going to tell you that, they're going out on a limb. They're taking a risk to say this to you.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to say that about a narcissist, that narcissist, if they ever find out, is going to have some issues, right?
Yeah.
With you and what you said. So if a therapist is going out on a limb to challenge you and tell you something that is difficult to hear, listen.
Oh, yeah. Especially when, like, with my ex, he was very covert. Like, it was very subtle.
Yeah.
Where I remember I'd written him, because we couldn't communicate. So I would write him a letter. And I remember even my sister being like, what do you mean you're writing him a letter? Well, you can't talk to him? I was like, nah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, he wrote me back. And that was when my mom, her red flag went up, and she was like, no. And he wrote this whole thing of like pretty much manipulating everything I had said, twisting it and saying, you know, it's very clear one of us loves you more than the other, meaning that he loved me more than I loved myself. And that's how he was able to manipulate, because he pinned it as, I'm doing this because I care about you. I put you down and call you names because I love you, because you matter to me. So of course, in the moment you're like, oh yeah, of course you're doing that because you love me just like my dad.
That's familiar to you.
That is hook, line, sinker. To walk away, I will never forget. I felt so empowered. And then 2 days later, I felt like a mess. And I wanted to normalize that, because I think we see that a lot. Either I ended it, so I should feel better.
Yeah, no, tell us about this. This is really important.
Ending it doesn't mean that the pain goes away. That just means that you're no longer willing to be delusional about what the pain or where it's being caused from.
Yeah.
Because when I made the decision to walk away, every person that led me to my partner now, I had to walk away from them, because otherwise I was going to just keep staring at a door that wasn't opening, but not realizing all the windows that were opening and all these other opportunities.
Yes.
And walking away oftentimes can feel really unhealthy to ourselves, like unnormal.
Yes.
Because I have never been able to make choices for myself.
Right.
I couldn't say a boundary. I couldn't say no. So
Right.
now exercising that, my body is like, hey, that's not safe.
Yep.
But what I realized as I did it was, I didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I'm still here.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And so then I had reconfirmation experiences to say, hey, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. And it becomes a little bit more baseline. But people see me now and think I've always been like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, if you knew
This is
me.
earned.
If you knew me in my New York days, which the people that do are like, you've come a long way, because it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it sure does. And that moment, you might have felt empowered in that moment, but 2 days later you said, you're down on the floor.
Crying hysterically.
Right. The way I like to frame it is that when you finally close the door and you end a painful relationship, you are ending the suffering and you're beginning the pain. And the difference between the two, pain is like the pure feeling of loss, grief, anger, all of the pure feeling. The suffering is what happens when you don't attend to it and you stay in it. And it's everything that you do to try to get away from the experience of pain. Suffering is doing drugs so that you don't feel anxious, drinking so that you don't feel anxious. Suffering is staying in a relationship that's bad because you're too afraid of the pain of ending it, right? And when you end something, the freedom that you create for yourself is to end your suffering and also to begin the pain. And that's where you found yourself 2 days later on the floor. That's the pain.
I remember when he left the first time, crying into my pasta and just sitting there and like my mom being like, please, please eat. Like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
I didn't eat for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was about 90 pounds and I'm 5'8". So that was really scary. Like even to the point where people started to notice, right?
Yes.
You're walking, we were like, hey, are you okay? Like, you don't look okay.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, so there's something wrong. And I was manic. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat.
Yeah.
I was just at all times, I was so codependent with him.
Yeah.
Because
and he was your addiction and you were in withdrawal.
Complete withdrawal. And I didn't know what to do with it. And now obviously you learn along the way, because now it's interesting. People ask all the time, like, what makes my relationship healthy? And to me, what makes it healthy is that at any point we know that it could end. I'm not holding on to him as if this is the end all be all. Like, I don't know if you watch Love is Blind.
Yeah. Not this season, but I've historically watched it.
The new season, there's a couple people that are like, divorce isn't an option here. Divorce isn't an option. And to me, that sounds really not the most healthy way of thinking it. Nobody's asking to enter a marriage to divorce. But I think as an adult, I know that anything can end.
Yeah.
And if I learned that with Clem, because I used to joke and say, he has to live forever. My dog has to live forever. I can't. He's my object of permanence. And I would joke and like, people would look and they're like, no, she's not kidding. So when he died and you lose what you literally think you can't be without, you start to realize I can't attach to anything like that because everybody is going to leave you. That's life.
Yes.
You have to. You're going to die eventually.
Yes.
So they're going to leave you.
Yes.
And anybody outside of my mom and my immediate family, I've had to learn to detach. And not because I don't care about them. I love my partner, but every day we are making a conscious choice to choose each other. And if one or both of us decide that we're not, then it's over.
Yeah.
But if I can't accept that, then I'm not actually in the relationship because I like have the true intentions to be in it. Yeah. I'm in it because I'm hoping that this person's choosing me.
Yeah. And what you know about yourself now is that if that were to happen, you will grieve and you will survive.
I'll be okay.
Right?
I'll be sad because I'm a human.
Yeah.
And I miss him and I love him.
Yeah.
But I know that if I met him, that's an amazing person, that like I exist, other people exist.
Yeah.
There's 9 billion people. If I think there's only one person on the planet that's for me,
we're screwed.
We're
if
screwed,
that's the case.
right?
Yeah.
And what are the odds that they're your age demographic, in your proximity, at the timing, in your vicinity of where you are, that they also want the relationship in the way that you do?
Yeah. There's no the one. There's only the one you choose.
And my mom always says, like, for now. Mm-hmm. And for now really helped me to release.
For now,
everything. Because I'd say, Mom, I'm never going to meet anyone. She'd go, for now you haven't. Mm-hmm. Every time. And I wanted to punch her for a long time. And then I was like, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because she would always ask me, she asked me one question, I remember, that kind of changed everything for me. She said, if I told you that within 6 to 8 months you were going to meet the love of your life, what would you do differently? And I was like, well, I wouldn't care, Mom. I wouldn't be as sad. I would let them go. And I was like, I see why you asked me that. I was like, because I need to change the way I'm showing up. Because if I have a true knowing that there is somebody out there for me, and I will meet them when I'm ready to meet them, then I'm not holding on to the people that are wrong for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that question, I love it because it invites you to step into new behaviors, right? And I know you were going to therapy, which was such an important component of it, DBT, ACT, IFS. Were there things behaviorally that you were doing outside of therapy to change your life, to really get back to yourself?
100%. I was meditating every single day. And not because I was just trying to do it. I was trying to learn that thoughts can pass, that I can sit in an uncomfortable position. Yeah. I started working out. And again, not because it was my body, but because I wanted to understand mind-to-body connection. Oh, this really hurts. Okay, can you connect? Can you breathe into this part? Mm-hmm. I started going on walks every single day, morning, noon, night. Like, walking is my drug. I love it so much. And I just put my phone in my pocket and I cruise. Yeah. The biggest thing that changed everything was power of the pause. Taking literally 1 minute. I'm very reactive. And now people know I'm the complete opposite. They're like, hey, I know if I don't text you, I'm not going to hear from you. Because now I really sit with it and I see how I feel and I take a minute, because I could say a lot of things I'll regret. Yeah. And then that's that protest behavior. Yeah. But I think really also changing the environment I was in, not because I had to move, but realizing that there were friends that their lives were a mess. So why am I taking advice from these people? And I had to do a detox of the people I followed, the content I ingested, where I put my energy. Yeah. Because my sister always says, you're like a battery. So if you only have so much energy in the day, you got to figure out where you're going to use it. Yes. But I think that was really monumental for me, and learning just how to regulate my nervous system in actual tangible ways, right? Like doing the shakes or putting a sour candy, setting a clock for 5 minutes and just allowing myself to ruminate. And then when the clock goes up, okay, let's challenge, like doing things, understanding, where do I feel this in my body? How old do I feel? Doing things that didn't require me to be in therapy, because therapy is amazing. And as you know, you're a therapist. there is nothing like a good session, but what you do after that is what matters. It's not just what you do in this room.
That's
it's
right.
what are the choices that we're making
That's
after
right.
this. That's what changed it.
Can you tell the listener what the shakes are?
I love the shakes, except careful because I broke my foot doing them. And I did a recording of me doing it, but I was wearing socks and I slid and I broke my foot.
Any behavior overexpressed can be problematic.
Please don't do that. Don't wear socks if you're going to do the shakes. But literally, because when we think about, for me, having a lot of that anxious energy, right? So when I have a lot of that anxious energy, what am I going to do with it? And so a lot of us think, let me text them, let me do this, let me do something external. And so what the shakes is a way to just move through that energy so that I could let my nervous system know I'm safe, right? We think about children. Children shake when they get scared. Yeah. And so that's a normal bodily reaction. And so by having an outlet or doing like wall pushes, literally pushing into it, or the silent wrist, or what is it? You know what the fuck I'm saying. Doing the silent punch. Thank you. That's the word. Silent punch of just, and just allowing, or like I had a troll once that left me a negative comment and my friend's like, punch the air. And she's a nervous system specialist. She's like, punch the air.
Yeah.
And then after I was like, okay, I fought off the tiger. There's no more threat.
Oh, yeah.
So just rigging the system, right? Yeah. If I know that dopamine is what I'm chasing, then how can I give it to myself? The one thing actually that changed everything. It's so simple. And as therapists, you probably tell everybody to do this. But there was a morning, I remember I like woke up at like 4 a.m. because I have anxiety. I woke up at 4 a.m. just randomly and I was like, I didn't send the email. And it was just one of those moments of like, and normally I'd go, God, you're an idiot. You're so dumb. How could you do this? Oh my God. I would go down that. And I stopped and went, hey man, you know, you're a human. And it makes so much sense that you forgot because yesterday was a really busy day. So how about we'll do that when you wake up. And for now, you're allowed to just have made a mistake. And I felt like, because compassion, when you show it to yourself, releases more dopamine than an external person giving it to you. And so when I did that, I now have talked to myself like that of like, hey, I don't think we need to be that mean to ourselves. I know that's how in the past we've done it. But now how about I offer that everything you've been through makes sense, and it would make sense that you would act like this.
Giving yourself the grace and compassion when you make a mistake that you never got from your dad.
Yeah. Because you had to be perfect. And if you weren't, it was a minefield. You didn't know. Even to this day, sometimes I'm like, I got this. Like I have the sentence perfect. And you say it and you're like, oh, that one word tipped him off. You did one thing. If he perceives that you call him a liar or perceives that you are in questioning his integrity, even though you are, because he did something that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's it. He's just off his rail. And then 5 seconds later, it's come here, give me love. Come here, my love. Give me a hug. Yeah. It's whiplash. You don't know how to act. Yeah. And until I understood that, and it was like, hey, you're allowed to disappoint people. That's okay. Yeah. I wasn't able to.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing such a great job of bringing us to the here and now with your dad. You know, I'm thinking about the here and now. You don't go through a tremendous transformation like you have based on a failed relationship without it changing how you show up in your current relationships. So will you tell us about, well, let's start with your dad. How do you, it sounds like you still interface with him. How do you manage this relationship now?
It's very shallow. We talk once every few months. Like it's not anything crazy. Call him on his birthday. You do the obligatory text. Like even all of it. Like we're just, like my sister's like, oh, I haven't talked to him in like 2 months. I'm like, I forgot. Yeah. He hasn't called, the narcissist, right? Yeah. He hasn't called me first in about 3 years. Wow. He waits for us and he says, you're Mike, I remember at dinner, he said, you're a piece of me. And I said, no, that's the problem. I'm my own person, but you think I'm an extension of you. Yeah. And so I had to learn, the first time I ever noticed was the first dinner I went to with them, with my partner, with me and Ryan. And I remember just being like, oh, wow. So this is the anxiety I've been like, this is that bodily feeling I've had for my entire life. And I was like, no, thank you, unsubscribe. And so that meant setting boundaries and pissing people off and creating an ecosystem that makes me feel like if he were to call me today and tell me to never call him again, I'd be like, okay, this is about the 15th time you've done that in my adult life. So let's go through this again, Yuri. Yeah. And I think for me, I've just learned I stood up to the scariest person to me, the one person I was always afraid of losing, I stood up to. So then what am I scared of after that? Yeah.
Yeah. And healing, getting broken and healing from that inherently means that your relationships will and must change.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
because I'm changing. And so I learned the people that benefited from the fact that I didn't have boundaries, of course, they're going to be pissed off when I start to set them.
Yeah.
You benefited from the fact that I didn't.
Yes.
And it actually led me, because once I understood, like, the 2 questions that I write in the book that are changing everything for me is, how old do I feel and where did I learn this from? Because I just always go back to that of like Ryan will say something, and if I get super triggered by something that's minute, right, by him saying, no, I don't want to go do that, and all of a sudden I'm crying, well, that has nothing to do with my partner. And then I realize, oh, I felt dismissed, similar, okay, so I feel like I'm a child, okay, what do I need to do, da, da, da. And then I can come to my partner like an adult and say, hey, moving forward, could you say this instead? That was hurtful.
Yeah.
You got it, no problem, babe.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what does conflict look like in your relationship now? Because I think people also have this idea that when we're healed, then we won't have conflict, or we won't ever step out of line. Or tell us, what's it like when you have a difficult moment with Ryan?
Conflict, regulate, repair is the order that we take. So when we have conflict, we both know, go take 5 minutes. Like, even if it's, hey, I'm going outside, I'm going to just like get some fresh air on, like get some sunshine on my skin, and I'll come right back in. Because if we don't regulate, we can't actually repair, because then we're not listening to each other. And so Ryan and I we have difficult conversations every week. Like every day it would be something, because he's more avoidant leaning. And so for me, I'm very good at communicating. Hey, can I share something with you? This is really bothering me. And he might get defensive and say, I didn't do that. And so I'll stop and say, hey, do you want to be right, or do you want to actually listen to the experience that I'm having? And he'll stop and go, you're right, I apologize. Like, what is it that you need? And we're able to get through it. He also has an amazing therapist. I have an amazing therapist. We've had couples therapy before, because we couldn't figure out how to cross those lines. And it took someone to explain to him and me what was happening. And so now we have conflict, but it's not the absence of conflict doesn't make a healthy relationship. It's the absence of repair that becomes a problem. And you see it, I'm sure, all the time. People just chasing their tails. It's the same issue over and over, just dressed up in a different outfit. Right? It's not about the dishes. It's about the fact that you didn't feel heard. It's not about the fact that your partner forgot this. It's that you don't feel like a priority. And so until we get down to that and just say it, if I don't bring it out into the open, it's not going to get rectified.
Yeah. And I also know that there's this tendency, people always think that therapists, dating coaches, that we always get it right. There's this this myth that, we're these perfect creatures. When you really fall out with yourself and fall back into some old familiar patterns, what does that look like for you today? And how do you work with yourself?
For me personally, that can look like I can get really short, or all of a sudden I'll like yell at my partner, or I'll like raise my voice. I'll raise my voice, and I have to stop and go like, hey, he didn't do anything. You're just frustrated right now. I have to notice. I also am attuning to his needs as well. I'm like, oh, he's shutting down. Okay, Sab, maybe you should not be a bull in a china shop. And you can like calmly ask him, what do you need right now? Can we actually what can we do to repair this? For me, it's less about, my relationship is quite smooth in that way. Like we have our way and we have the open conversations. For me, it was my career that was the hiccup. I was starting to see my old patterns. Like I said yesterday, just starting to cry because a video didn't do well. On paper, you'd be like, yeah, that's part of it, right? And in a more regulated state, I'd say it's no big deal. But when I feel like everything is going to be lost, or it's my fault, and it hits that really deep wound, then I go into crying, and this is it. I catastrophize. It's over. There's nothing left. I'm an idiot. Nobody likes me. I cry. And then after, sometimes I'm like, I don't know who that was, but maybe she just needed to get it out. Because then I'm like, oh, I feel a lot better. So I allow myself to be a human.
Yeah, that's so important. And I'm so glad that you're telling this story, because people who want to make you think that they've got it all together and they don't ever face these battles anymore, I'm telling you that they're lying.
They're lying.
It's just not true, And so you're noticing it might not come up in your relationship as much. You seem to have things, well handled there for now. For now. But it comes up in your career. I think people will be surprised to know that you get your feelings hurt when your own expectations of yourself are not met.
All the time. Right? I had the highest sales on a workshop that I did. And right after, even Ryan came in, he was like, I'm waiting for it. And I just went, it's not enough. And And he was like, oh my God. And I sat down with a friend of mine, and she's a therapist, and she looked at me and she was like, as somebody who is 20 years older than you that has been through this, you better figure out the number that's enough, because it never will be. And she was like, we need to come down to an actual plan that you can look at to feel, because she was like, this has nothing to do with your career. This has to do with safety and feeling
it's not
like
about the number.
It's not about the number. It's nothing. Because I thought when I get to 1 million, when I get to 1.5, every benchmark keeps moving because the moving target is me.
Yes.
And so now learning, I have to look and say, you know what, for today's a bad day, right? Maybe today a video didn't get seen. We'll try again tomorrow. If I'm lucky enough to have the breath to take, I'll try it again. Yeah. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. You and who you are at your core hasn't changed, including your demons, but you are learning to do a different dance with them. And you are learning to take care of yourself when you fall back into something old, something ancient, something familiar that doesn't work for you. You're learning and continue to learn every day a different way.
Isn't it funny how we're born into it, even birth, right? We think of generational trauma and the wound and all of those things. So we are born into this, and then we spend our entire life to undo it, to grow, to evolve, and then that's it. Right? You take your last breath and you hope that you've reached where you want to be. Yeah. So for me, because people ask all the time, are you still working on yourself? And I was like, if this is it, I don't want this to be my peak. I always want to be improving, because I do believe I could be a better version of myself every day, not in the pressure way, but in an actual, I don't think triggers are a bad thing. I don't think setbacks are a bad thing. I think that they show me how much stronger I actually am. I wish it didn't impact me to the extent that it does, but I wouldn't take it away, because I think everything I experienced brought me to where I'm at. And so if I tried to get rid of that, then that means I would try to get rid of parts of me. Yeah. And that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. And you have done this incredible job of bringing your most authentic, vulnerable self to a platform that you make available for other people to get support through you and through your earned experiences. You know, I know that you do one-on-one coaching, you offer courses, you've written a book that's going to be published and out in October. Please tell the listeners, because I know when they hear this, if they don't already know you, they're going to want to know much more of you. Tell them where you can find them and how we can support you.
Thank you. So sabrinazohar.com is where everything is. Sabrina Zohar on every platform. Sabrina.Zohar, Sabrina Zohar Show. Some variation of my name will bring you to me.
I love that. Your name.
My name. And that was when I lost the podcast name a year and a half ago. I had to change it from Do the Work to the Sabrina Zohar Show. And I pretty much lost myself at that point. And now almost 2 years later, I don't look back and go, I'm so grateful it happened that way. But I am grateful that it forced me to step in my own power, because I hid behind Do the Work and people didn't even know my name. And so now I get to say with confidence that if you type me in, you will find me, because I think hiding behind something else is how I was not really being authentically myself.
Yeah, I think that's so important and so symbolic that you are known by your name and who you really are and all that you bring to the community. I'm so grateful for you bringing your work to Kissing Frogs. I know that so many people are going to feel seen and benefit from hearing this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Dr. Molly Burritts. This is Kissing Frogs, and that's our time for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Kissing Frogs with Dr. Molly Burritts. I want to hear your thoughts on it, especially if you loved it. So please leave a comment on Spotify or rate and review the show on Apple. Don't forget to subscribe while you're there. And if you think that a friend would enjoy this podcast, please share the episode with them. That's the absolute best way to help the show grow. You can find me on socials at Kissing Frogs Pod and at Dr. Molly Burritts. That's DrMollybUrrets. See you next time.